The summer of 1518. A heat wave gripped Strasbourg, a bustling city within the Holy Roman Empire. But the sweltering air wasn't the only oppressive force. Something far stranger, far more insidious, was about to unfold. It began with one woman. Frau Trophia. Stepping into the narrow street, she started to dance. Not a joyful jig, not a celebratory waltz, but a compulsive, unyielding movement. Hour after hour, she danced. What unseen compulsion had seized her? What force possessed her limbs? The city watched, bewildered, as a lone figure spun into an unimaginable nightmare. Her steps marked the eerie prelude to an event that would baffle generations. Within days, Frau Trophia was not alone. One by one, others joined her. Men, women, even children. Their movements mirroring hers, frantic and uncontrolled. Their faces, a mixture of exhaustion and terror. They did not choose to dance, they were danced. Imagine the scene, a growing crowd, twisting and turning in the stifling summer heat, their feet pounding the cobblestones, oblivious to fatigue, oblivious to pain. The city, once vibrant, now resonated with the relentless rhythm of a macabre, involuntary performance. No music spurred them on, only an invisible command. What could possibly compel such a horrifying spectacle to multiply so rapidly? This was no mere fad, no fleeting craze. This was a plague. A plague of motion. Within a month, reports suggest up to 400 people were caught in its grip. Some estimates even put the number higher. They danced until their feet bled. They danced until their muscles gave out. They danced until they collapsed from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. Death became a grim, inevitable conclusion for many. The authorities, desperate and bewildered, could only watch as their citizens literally danced themselves to death. The very act of living became a deadly, rhythmic torment. The scale of this suffering was immense, its cause utterly unknown. How could an entire community be overtaken by such a bizarre and fatal affliction? The city council, utterly out of its depth, grappled with the crisis. Initially, they believed it to be a spiritual affliction, perhaps a divine punishment. Exorcisms were performed. Prayers were offered. But the dancing continued, relentlessly. Then, a shocking decision. Believing the dancers needed to exhaust themselves, they actively encouraged the dancing. They opened guildhalls, built stages, hired musicians to play rousing tunes, even paid strongmen to help keep the dancers moving. Their logic was tragically flawed. This encouragement only fueled the bizarre phenomenon, providing a horrifying stage for its escalation. What desperation could lead to such a counterintuitive, and ultimately catastrophic, strategy? The dancing plague of 1518 isn't mere folklore or legend. It is meticulously documented in historical records from the period. Chronicles, medical treatises, sermons, and city council notes all corroborate the bizarre events. These accounts, often written by horrified eyewitnesses, describe the uncontrollable dancing, the exhaustion, the deaths, and the desperate attempts to intervene. The consistency across these disparate sources lends an undeniable weight to the story. This wasn't an isolated incident, nor a misunderstanding. It was a real, terrifying event that scarred a city's memory. But while the what is clear, the why remains shrouded in time. What do these ancient texts truly reveal, and what do they hide? Strasbourg in 1518 was not the first, nor the last, place to experience such a bizarre phenomenon. Historical records hint at similar, though smaller, outbreaks of dancing mania across Europe in previous centuries. Yet, the 1518 event in Strasbourg stands out due to its sheer scale and fatality. Why did this particular outbreak become so intense, so deadly? Was there a specific catalyst unique to Strasbourg at that moment? Or was it simply the culmination of underlying societal pressures that finally erupted in this devastating physical manifestation? Each past incident, each fleeting mention in ancient texts, only deepens the puzzle, suggesting a recurring, dark thread woven through medieval history. Just as mysteriously as it began, the dancing plague eventually subsided. After weeks of relentless torment, the numbers of dancers dwindled. Those who survived were likely sent to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, a patron saint believed to cure dancing madness. The shrine, located in Saverne, became a place of pilgrimage and, perhaps, of respite. With time, the fever broke, and the city slowly began to heal from its collective trauma. But the memory lingered. The terrifying image of hundreds of people dancing against their will, driven by an invisible force, became a haunting testament to human vulnerability. What truly brought this bizarre chapter to a close? Was it medical intervention, exhaustion, or something else entirely? Among the most enduring scientific theories is ergotism, also known as St. Anthony's fire. This condition is caused by ingesting rye contaminated with the ergot fungus, Claviceps purpurea. Ergot contains powerful psychoactive alkaloids that can cause convulsions, hallucinations, and intense muscle spasms, symptoms that, on the surface, might explain the uncontrollable dancing. The fungus thrives in damp, cool conditions, which could have been present at some point during the harvest preceding the summer of 1518. The suffering of the dancers, the spasms, the burning sensations, might align with the effects of this potent natural toxin. Could a tainted loaf of bread have sparked this nightmare? Or is the explanation far more complex? While compelling, the ergotism theory faces challenges. The dancing plague primarily involved uncontrollable motor activity, not the gangrenous effects often associated with ergotism. More importantly, it's questioned whether ergot poisoning could sustain such prolonged, intense dancing without immediate, fatal organ failure. The psychoactive effects might explain the compulsion, but the sheer endurance of the dancers remains puzzling under this hypothesis. Furthermore, records don't explicitly mention the typical gangrenous symptoms of ergotism, like limb loss. If not ergot, then what? The fungus offers a tantalizing, yet incomplete, explanation, leaving room for other sinister possibilities. What crucial pieces of evidence are missing for this theory to fully hold water? Another leading theory points to mass psychogenic illness, or MPI. This involves the rapid spread of symptoms among a group of people, often in a stressful or anxious environment, without any clear physical cause. Symptoms can be wide-ranging and very real, including headaches, nausea, tremors, and, crucially, hysterical behaviors. Strasbourg in 1518 was a powder keg of societal distress. Poverty was rampant. Famine was common. Disease outbreaks were frequent. A severe heat wave had intensified the misery. Under such immense psychological pressure, a collective delusion, a shared hallucination of sorts, could trigger a physical manifestation like uncontrollable dancing. Could the mind, pushed to its absolute limits, create such a terrifying reality? MPI often relies on the power of suggestion and belief. If people believed they were cursed to dance, or if they saw others dancing, their minds might manifest similar symptoms. The initial dancer, Frau Trophia, could have been experiencing a stress-induced fit. Seeing her, and in a climate of superstition and fear, others might have subconsciously or even physiologically replicated the behavior. The authorities' misguided attempt to encourage the dancing might have inadvertently amplified the collective hysteria, legitimizing the bizarre behavior and trapping more people in its grip. It's a terrifying thought that the mind, under extreme duress, could initiate such a deadly, self-fulfilling prophecy. Could social contagion alone explain such a monumental tragedy? Medieval religious beliefs also played a significant role. The cult of Saint Vitus was prevalent, with many believing he had the power to both inflict and cure dancing madness. Sufferers of earlier dancing manias were often taken to his shrines. This existing cultural narrative, deeply ingrained in the populace, could have provided a framework, a ready-made explanation for the inexplicable. If people believed they were afflicted by Saint Vitus, they might then exhibit the very symptoms associated with his curse. The line between medical reality and spiritual interpretation was blurred, creating a fertile ground for a mass psychogenic event to take root and flourish. Could a collective spiritual dread manifest physically, claiming lives? To fully understand the context, we must consider the environmental factors. Strasbourg in 1518 was not a sanitary paradise. Poor sanitation, crowded living conditions, and limited food supplies were the norm. Diseases like typhus and smallpox regularly ravaged communities. The summer heat wave would have exacerbated these conditions, increasing stress, dehydration, and potentially making people more susceptible to illness or psychological distress. Was there a specific confluence of environmental factors that, when combined with social anxieties and existing superstitions, created the perfect storm for the dancing plague to erupt with such ferocity? The more we look, the more layers of potential causality appear. What invisible pressures were at play? Perhaps the city council's intervention, far from solving the problem, actually fueled it through a kind of dark tourism. By providing stages and musicians, they created a spectacle. People might have flocked to witness the horrifying dance, inadvertently creating an audience and an environment ripe for further psychological contagion. The attention, the fear, the morbid fascination, could these elements have reinforced the belief in the affliction, making it even harder for the dancers to stop? It's a disturbing thought that the very attempt to manage the crisis might have, for a time, amplified its power, turning a tragedy into a macabre, involuntary performance for onlookers. Was the collective gaze of the city a crucial component in its spread? Could the truth be a complex interplay of both ergotism and mass psychogenic illness? Perhaps a small initial outbreak of ergot poisoning, causing tremors and spasms, was then amplified and misinterpreted through the lens of mass hysteria in a highly stressed population. The physical symptoms of a toxin, combined with the psychological contagion of a community under duress and steeped in superstitious beliefs, could explain the devastating scale and unusual endurance of the dancing plague. It's a synthesis that attempts to reconcile the seemingly contradictory evidence, bridging the gap between a purely physical cause and a purely psychological one. Is a single answer too simplistic for such an intricate historical enigma? Ultimately, the dancing plague of 1518 remains an unsolved enigma. No single theory perfectly accounts for all its horrifying details. The historical records provide a chilling account of what happened, but the why continues to elude us. It stands as a stark reminder of human vulnerability, the power of collective psychology, and the hidden dangers that can emerge when societies are pushed to their breaking point. It challenges our understanding of human physiology, mental health, and the volatile intersection of culture in crisis. What other secrets lie buried within the annals of history, waiting to confound us? The phantom rhythm of the dancers echoes through the centuries, a testament to an inexplicable horror. Perhaps the most important lesson from the dancing plague isn't a definitive diagnosis, but rather an insight into the human condition itself. It highlights how profoundly our environment, our beliefs, and our collective anxieties can shape our realities. It reminds us of the fragility of social order and the potential for widespread suffering when understanding fails. The events of 1518 compel us to look beyond simplistic explanations, encouraging a deeper empathy for those caught in the grip of forces they cannot comprehend or control. What can this strange history teach us about our own vulnerabilities, even today, in a world that often believes itself to be beyond such inexplicable phenomena? Though no longer dancing in the streets of Strasbourg, the mystery of 1518 persists. It whispers of a time when the world was less understood, when the line between physical illness and spiritual affliction was thin, and when the human body could become a stage for forces unknown. As historians and scientists continue to sift through fragmented clues, the dancing plague remains one of history's most captivating and unsettling tales. A dance of death, born of desperation, disease, or perhaps something far more profound. We may never have a definitive answer, but the questions it raises continue to haunt us, urging us to peer deeper into the shadows of the past, seeking understanding in the face of the truly inexplicable. What dark forces still lie dormant, awaiting their cue?